The road to the 2020 Kentucky Derby continues. Let's take a look at the Kentucky Derby Future Wager Pool number 2. You can see the first part of this two-part series at the link above. But right now, let's focus in on the horses that are returning from Pool 1. All the new shooters are discussed in the first part of this video. And in part 2, we'll take more of an in-depth look at some of the horses that you might want to consider for Kentucky Derby Future Wager Pool number 2. Again, I invest pretty heavily in some of the Kentucky Derby Future Wager pools and try to establish a position going into race day of having 1 or 2 horses covered. The goal is to try to have 1 or 2 horses covered at hopefully prices that are 10 times, 12 times the odds that they are on race day, either through a combination of exacta payoffs using the field or using some horses underneath the field to cover a few of the scattered contenders and then kind of precision and fine tune on some of the other contenders. So again, really we're going to take a look at these, take a look at some of their overall strengths, some of their weaknesses, and it's up for you to decide if you want to go in and participate in Kentucky Derby Future Wager Pool number 2. This is really not an attempt to try to pick the winner of the Kentucky Derby. What we're trying to do here is determine how realistic of a chance do they have of getting to the race, and then from there, what do you think their race day odds will be? Because if there's a better chance to get higher odds later on, sometimes waiting to pool number 3 and pool number 4 can actually benefit. I've usually had some of my best success in pool number 3. So let's start with some of the returning contenders, and Annie Dior is 30 to 1 on the Kentucky Derby Future Wager Pool number 2. And key thing here is it's got back-to-back runner-up finishes. Now he's pointing to the Risen Star, which is a 50-point race, so that's a good race to point for. He's already kind of on the top 10 contenders just with his runner-up finishes in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. You know, I thought he hung the last 2 times, so we'll see with the addition of blinkers, which is what's scheduled for the Risen Star. And he also, you know, he did run good races. He just kind of ranged up. He took the lead over 1,000 words. He took the lead in the Juvenile and then kind of just gave up that lead both times to the eventual winner, either stormed, you know. So we'll see what happens here. Stormed the court and, of course, 1,000 words, beating Annie Dior the last time. Now, Authentic was offered in pool number 1. Pool number 2, he's 15 to 1 after that galloping 7-length victory at Santa Anita. He's going to stay out west. The current plans for him is to go to the San Felipe, but he will be probably facing another stablemate potentially in Nadal or possibly even 1,000 words. So we'll see what happens there. Nadal right now could be also ticketed to the Southwest or the Rebel Stakes, also for Bob Baffert. So Authentic, you know, this one, the pedigree to me says a little bit more of a sprinter win early type. That Into Mischief breeding is always going to be a question mark until he gets a couple of horses that really want to win after May of their 3-year-olds campaign. They win fall of their 2-year-old years. They win the stakes races in January and February and March of their 3-year-old years, but then they don't really develop those distant capabilities later on. So Authentic, you know, fair odds, probably 25 to 1. Does he have a good shot of making the race? Possibly. We'll see what happens here. Basin entered in pool number 2. Now it looks like they're pointing to the Rebel, 30 to 1 on the morning line. The key thing for Basin, trained by Steve Asmussen, you know, he won the Hopeful Stakes in the slop. That was a grade 1, big victory. Now, some of those horses did come back and regress after that effort, but I think going into that race, it was kind of a key race. Godzilla and a couple of other horses did have some nice reputations. My big worrying point with Basin is he immediately had some problems in the fall, and they announced that he was going to take some time off, and they never officially said what was wrong with him, and that's always a negative sign. Another thing is when they did announce he was coming back, they immediately said the Rebel, which seems like a long layoff if you go back to last year when he ran in September at Saratoga. So that's going to be a long layoff. It means a maximum of 2 races. By the time you get to the Rebel, you're going to have all these allowance winners and early stakes winners in their 2nd, 3rd races of their form cycle. So the question for me is he going to come off that layoff and defeat other quality horses at that time of the year? And with a little bit of a sprinty pedigree, Liam's Map, his first crop, Johannesburg did better on turf and with turf milers. So I'm going to stay away from Basin myself. I would demand at least 50 to 1 odds if you're considering Basin. Another horse to consider is Dennis Moment, one of the top 3 favorites in the Kentucky Derby Future Wager Pool number 1, working steadily for the Fountain of Youth return, worked out 5 furlongs in 58. And his most recent workout, Dennis Moment, I think he's got a great shot of getting there. Pedigree says he's going to develop later. If he gets to the Derby and runs a big effort, this is the type of horse that could definitely run in the Preakness and the Belmont. And so we'll see if Dennis the Moment, if he can get by with 2 preps to get to that Derby, and see if he can step off the bench and face another quality field in the Fountain of Youth, which is a 50-point race, and whether he stays there. Right now, the plan is to run twice in Florida. Florida Derby would be the second race if he runs well in the Fountain of Youth. Governor Morris is back for pool number 2, the son of Constitution. A couple of other contenders also sired by that first crop's 3-year-olds. Governor Morris, a nice effort against Maxfield in the Keeneland Futurity. Maxfield, still no word yet on when he's actually going to get his first workout of the season. But Governor Morris, right now they're saying the Southwest Stakes, Todd Pletcher going to ship him into Oaklawn Park. Pedigree is win early type pedigree. Definitely a mile and 1/8 should be within his scope. Again, that pace dynamic was weird a little bit in that Breeders' Futurity. A couple of horses made mid-race moves. The D. Wayne Lucas horse, American Butterfly, went out and set a fast pace. So I think the pace got a little bit skewed. So actually that effort by Governor Morris was better than looked. He chased the fast pace. He got the first move, and it ended up being Maxfield who benefited circling the field after everybody else had kind of made a couple of mid-race moves. Governor Morris will probably run a good race off the bench. He's either going to be ready or he's not. I guess my only question mark for Governor Morris is 10 furlongs, and we have to see how those constitutions are going to take to that 10th furlong and 9 furlongs even as we start to stretch out this spring. Honor AP is back on the work tab. 3 workouts now since that slight hiccup. He missed the Sham Stakes. Again, they never revealed the injury, just kind of came back to training. Right now, it looks like the San Felipe would be the next logical spot. If he doesn't hit the San Felipe, he's probably really not on the Derby trail. Impressively won his maiden race, was bet down in his first race, the eye-catching move to close late in his debut. Most likely, Mike Smith's going to be on him in the San Felipe. Honor AP is the type of horse. He has the pedigree. He just needs to stay in training, and at 25-30 to 1, he could be a type of horse that could get in the gate and definitely be a lot lower odds on Derby Day. Independence Hall, he'll be striking at Tampa Bay this Saturday. One of the top 3 favorites in pool number 1, working steadily, and I expect him to be 3 to 5 on Saturday to win at Tampa Bay. Not much of a field there. Might be able to get 12-13 to 1 in this pool. May want to consider him with a few exacta possibilities with some of those new shooters, as they could maybe potentially inflate those odds. If he wins at the Sam F. Davis, a lot of options open for that final race, including the Florida Derby, or to keep him lightly raced and just keep him at Tampa, and then go in off a 6-7 week layoff into the Kentucky Derby. He would have enough points in that 50-point Tampa Bay race, and if he's not good enough to win that, he wouldn't be good enough to win some of the other races as well. Independence Hall, definitely a flashy victory, both at Parks and the dominating speed victory at Aqueduct in the fall. Big speed figures for Independence Hall. Maxfield, again, he's galloping, have not seen an official workout. He's got to get on the work tab in the next 2 weeks, or he's going to not be Kentucky Derby really pointed for that. I could see them taking their time, maybe looking at a Preakness type route, or even just waiting for the Belmont and then Travers and races like that in the fall. I mean, the horse has the ability. Can he get back to that off the layoff, and how bad were the bone chips that he suffered in the knee last fall? It's never a good sign when they start scoping those knees, especially as a 2-year-old. Maxfield 15 to 1 smells like an underlay to me. I think you'll get the same price on him in pool number 3. I would recommend waiting for pool number 3 if you're going to consider a bet on Maxfield, as he won't have run by pool number 3, and you'll at least know if he's on the work tab. Bet in pool number 2, you're betting blindly, and that's always not a good play. Other horses returning is Storm the Court, the juvenile champion, on the work tab, pointing for the San Vicente. You'll see how he's going to run this weekend. If he runs well, you may want to take an option on him. In the pool number 2, I'm more of the belief that it was more of a fluky victory in the juvenile when a few horses didn't show up. I thought Annie Dior could have really had him beat, and he kind of hung a little bit that day. Storm the Court, you're getting all of 30 to 1 for the juvenile champion, but traditionally that juvenile champion does not come back and win the Kentucky Derby. We'll see if he can just even come back and race competitively in grade 1s with some of these horses. Structor going to be pointed possibly for the Fountain of Youth. That's the latest word. On the work tab, a couple of workouts now. Again, he's all turf, going to the dirt. You must demand at least 30-1. Chad Brown's going to take a little bit of play here, but again, Chad Brown has not done well on the Derby trail. He has not done well with dirt runners, and he continues to train. I mean, other than a couple of dirt runners, you know, a few horses have actually improved after getting out of his stable. A horse like Gift Box, Chad Brown was just never able to get the best out of him on the dirt. He trains him for the dirt. His training regimen points to those short blowouts at the end of a 4 or 5 workout on the turf. And so Structor, you know, a little bit of question mark. Pedigree, you know, more than Ready or Milers, they're more turfers. I'm not sold on Structor. I'd have to wait to see a race on the dirt first. 1,000 words, impressive effort, back-to-back times now. La Salle Futurity, Robert B. Lewis. Options, he could go to San Felipe, could train up to the Rebel, could also go to the Santa Anita Derby. He has 20 points now on the Derby trail. 1,000 words, definitely 15 to 20-1. It's going to be lower than pool number 1. Hopefully you got a few tickets in on pool 1. Then now's definitely the time to go for it. Double down on him in pool 2 as well. Take some of those exacta combinations. That's really where you get the boost in the odds here. I know they're a little bit more riskier, but I'm trying to play these pools to make a score. I guess, you know, winning 20 bucks, winning 30 bucks. That's not how I play. I'm looking for a score, trying to find an overlay that could pay $200-300 in a couple of exactas that might only pay $50 or $75 on Derby Day. 1,000 words, definitely should be 15-16 to 1. Try to hit some exactas if you're thinking about him. 3 Technique, 50 to 1 on the morning line. Runner-up effort in the Smarty Jones Stakes. Pointing right now, got a few options. Most likely the Southwest or the Rebel. Not a bad effort. He chased a lone speed horse in the slop. I have a feeling he's going to be a better dirt runner. But that turf pedigree just scares me a little bit. Maybe the long-term really avenue of this guy is going to be a turf miler. His sire, Mr. Speaker, did his best running on the turf. And he does seem to have a little bit of a turf stride. He's kind of built by it like a turfer. But you definitely have to give him one more chance on the dirt. And if he's 50 to 1, that's at least a little bit of fair value. 'Tis the Law, big winner of the Holy Bull. He's going to be hammered here in pool number 2. Showed some nifty shiftability. Got caught again behind traffic early. Came from off the pace. Is he going to get to the Derby? Well, he's only going to have one more start before the Derby, so he's going to be lightly raced. Right now they're looking at the Fairgrounds and the Louisiana Derby for 'Tis the Law. If they go that route, he won't run until pool number 3, so you'll get the same odds in pool number 3 as you would get in pool number 2. So I would not bet 'Tis the Law on the win end. I'd maybe throw him in a few exactas if you like 'Tis the Law, but you'll get the same odds in pool number 3 because the Florida Derby will be run after pool number 3. And Violent City, we talked about him in the New Shooters video. Watch that at the link above. Again, that's a look at your Kentucky Derby Future Wager pool number 2 of the returning horses. Are you considering exactas with horses like 'Tis the Law, Maxfield? Are you going to go for Governor Morris with a little bit of upside, or even a horse like Storm the Court? If he runs well this week, he probably even still won't get much respect. Remember, we're leading you all the way up to the 2020 Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks. We've got recaps of the Withers, the Holy Bull, and the Robert Lewis last week. Also, part 1 of the videos of Kentucky Derby Future Wager Part 2. You can watch the videos from Part 1 as well. We did those last fall as Parts 1 and Part 2. Leading you up to the 2020 Kentucky Derby.